Alright, good afternoon. This is Adam Sturch broadcasting from the Mushroom Mansion today, Taos, New Mexico, working on oil painting A Midsummer Night's Dream. Alright, today I'm going to continue with some figure placement. I've got this little blob right here where I'm zooming in, about there. I'm going to turn that into a sphinx, I think. And he'll be facing the, or she'll be facing the bicyclist with wings, kind of sitting down like a cat. And, yeah, so I'm just going to start with that. I got some madder carmine mixed up, a little yellow ochre, some white for the eyes, and a little bit of black. And I'm a little bit off today. Apologies, but I did not sleep last night. I have a broken tooth. I got a dentist appointment in the morning tomorrow. But I didn't sleep a wink, and actually, I've never, I thought this was worth relating for the fact that I've never hallucinated from sheer pain before. But I got these extraordinarily interesting purplish, more profound than just typical like hypnagogia with your eyes closed kind of thing. These just fantastic sort of Max Ernst squelchy, corally kind of masses of purple streaming into the distance there, and it got me to thinking, after the agony calmed down a little bit and I could think again, that sticking hooks under your pecs and hanging from a tree would probably induce a rupture of a plane. But I think mushrooms are, a little friendlier way to go than just suffering until your mind splits open and you see God. But I can see how it could get you there. But anyway, no sleep, tired, times for a sphinx, so I don't fall on my face. I really need to do something. So I'm going to zoom in on this and see how this turns out.
Yes, the week is a good way to go, I think. Annual is too slow for modern society.
Oh, I think annual is a really good one as well.
Yeah.
Alright, let's see here.
Well, you have these many cycles running, and then
Seasons. For people to be unconscious of the seasons in modern cities, this is really...
well, notice that what you end up suggesting is that the reclamation of the unconscious has to do with directing attention into time.
Using these mechanisms...
The time is the body of the unconscious, apparently.
Well, time is the mediator of the differences. Time is the enemy of habituation. Time is the strategies of subverting sensory
Time is the theater of habituation as well. So time and attention used creatively banish the unconscious.
Well, I don't know how they banish it on an annual basis. And they still mean that a lot of these things go unconscious again for much of the year, but they keep each aspect of the collective consciousness, which is far larger than the everyday consciousness, because it includes all the mythic and ceremonial realms. By this annual connection, they keep the whole collective consciousness aware and in acknowledging on a systematic basis these different dimensions of that.
So symbolically, the unconscious is death.
Symbolically, the unconscious is death.
Yes, because it's the absence of awareness.
Or is it sleep?
It's sleep and death, which are often equated.
Yeah.
And so then if sleep and death are the principal images of the unconscious, we then have the curious intermediate form of dreams, which are intermediate between unconscious and conscious life in some sense.
Mm-hmm.
They're conscious after a form, but not fully conscious, and they occur when we're unconscious and we rapidly forget them.
And a role for meditation in maintaining consciousness, voluntary fluctuation, difference in the mind. Well, in the annual cycle, people should become, and we should become more aware of the zodiacal sign, not the fictitious zodiacal sign of Western modern astrology, but the actual asterism in the sky through which the sun is now passing.
And we become much more aware of the movements of the heavens. If for example, Thursday, Thor's Day, or Jupiter's Day, Jovidi, is associated with Jupiter, as it is, or Saturday with Saturn, that on those days you actually see those planets in the sky, you learn where they are, and you know on those days where to look to them, because you have to direct your consciousness towards them to come under the beneficent influence of their principle.
And even if they're up in daytime, you can still be aware of what part of the sky they're in.
Exactly, and the rituals of these different days would involve actually connecting with the intelligences of the planets, which is what the names of the days are named after.
There could be sort of accelerators in public places, like a big tube which is aimed at places in the sky where Jupiter is, a little clock adjustment, and you just go up when you're passing by, and through looking through it, you're aware of the fact that even if you can't see it because it's daytime, that's where Jupiter is.
That's right.
Thursday.
And then these things are set either by a technician or by some remote control program more easily. So that the next day you'd have Venus,
Yeah.
Friday, and then Saturday you'd have Saturn. And each day there'd be a renewed awareness of the planetary bodies. And you might also have to include something for the more recently discovered ones, Pluto
Yes.
and Uranus and so on, in
Well, on that Saturdays we have two readings.
But this then would be returning onto a modern version of those medieval cathedral clocks that show
Yeah,
the
exactly.
astronomical configuration.
Which is in towers, but of course these towers will be associated with shopping malls instead of with cathedrals and abbeys and so on, because shopping malls are actually the modern equivalent of the medieval abbey.
You see, they always seem to be the most desolate and desanctified of places.
Well, I was at Glastonbury Abbey recently, and they have, in a little museum, and then there are drawings and reconstructions of the place, and there's this huge, outside the wall, there's this huge market which goes on, which is exactly like a shopping mall. People have their stalls selling things, and shopping malls are really like bazaars, you see, because you have one big building, and then you have little shops with no walls around. They're souks. Yes. And the only thing missing, of course, is the actual abbey.
Mere detail because of bang.
It's put it back. There's nowhere to put it, you see, because we have to put it back in the middle of commerce where people like to go for shopping. And then between the jewelry store and the grocery store, one would pass by this tower, which if you felt like it, you could ascend, and then take a darshan of Jupiter and Pluto.
Yes, somehow I so hate shopping malls that I'd rather be able to go to it without having to go past all these shops.
Yes, I would too, but...
So we have to have the freestanding version, or the ancient sacred site version as well.
Yeah.
Because if these things are placed on sacred sites within each, like each town had its temple or sacred site, you could have a sacred center of each place where this is.
Well, in America we don't have sacred sites, only in Europe you have them. Here we have...
Well, these would be on Native American sacred sites.
Disneyland, and well, there's Yellowstone, and there's big mountains, geysers, and some natural features where people go, but we don't have this thousands of historical sites
All right,
people like to visit on the weekend.
All right, well then we just have a few of these. They've been made for a limited edition to start with, and they've been installed at Esalen, Hollyhock, Omega, etc.
Yeah.
Places where a daily ability to be related to the reigning planet would actually intrigue a lot of people who came here to look through. And it would be a novel feature. Everyone would talk about it. It would be it'd be fairly easy to make, especially if it were
They
meant
have
to
to be a staff
operated.
position, you see, where these work study scholars, they call them, rotate. They're quite happy at their work because they rotate the job, so they have this novelty factor. 5 days in dishes, and then suddenly you're doing the sheets, and you're out cutting the lawn. Well, one of the jobs would have to be the maintenance of the tubes pointing at the heavens. And the person who did this would have a dunce cap and a long robe of linen, and go about setting, maybe there'd be a little pyramid, with truncated pyramid with a top, and you climb up the stairs like in the Yucatan, and then you have these tubes pointing and a little plaque that explains. So one person would come properly dressed every morning and adjust them for the day's project.
Like those Arabic or mogul observatories, like you see they're like parks, where there's one where you go up a long ramp and that gives you a view on something, and then there will be different ramps and tubes and sort of semicircular, so you can get all different viewing angles. That's exactly it. It's a kind of astronomical theme park in a way, where you've got all these apparatuses which actually enable it to become a reality for you in relation by walking into it and climbing upstairs and moving around it.
Parks.
So I think Stonehenge and those places must have had something of this
They
quality.
still function in this way for a lot of people.
So the thing is, it's not difficult to construct henge-like structures or these astronomical tube setups. So we'd start with a few selected places, a kit that could probably be mounted on a sort of couple of yards square.
The henge kit. The henge kit.
Well, this would first be the tube kit, the celestial observation kit. With
Mini henge. to be the first prod.
Yes, and then we'd have the complete henge kit, which for use at schools, institutions, etc., where people have got commanding views and large, or farmers or open-air entrepreneurs in the countryside. You'd have these henge kits established, where you've got the entire line of view of, if you sit in the centre of the exact horizon position of midsummer sunrise, equinoxes, the rising points of the moon through its 18-year cycle of moving along the different points. All these marked out by the coordinates of the henge with a booklet, maybe a computer program explaining exactly which ones to look for when. And then relation to the heavenly bodies through sitting in the centre of a henge could become, again, a living experience for millions of people.
Yeah.
Public parks could happen.
Every people would go for it too, because they would find out through experience that something actually does happen to them when you look at that part of the sky, that the direct sight, personal observation of the sky has this effect on consciousness. It's cheap, it's easy to obtain, it's fun, it's popular as Disneyland.
Exactly. So if this kit were designed, first the tube kit and then the henge kit, based on a reliable study of ancient henge monuments, including wood henge, the materials used. They could be wood, you see, because wood henge nailed wood. Or it could be stone, in which case one would have to send out it would simply be an instruction manual for the kind of local stone to use.
A computer program could aim the tubes.
Yes, and also help with the alignment of the stones. Although the best way, in fact, to do it would be to do it in reality, to go to the central point and observe the sunrise on the summer solstice.
Yes.
And mark the point, and actually do it by observation.
Sunrise observation is the easiest one to understand.
So
a lot of horizon of Venus, that's harder.
Somewhat trickier.
Yeah. You have to recognize Venus.
And you have to watch for several days.
And then so much would be reclaimed, which the remnants are still there, the names of the days and the months and all these saints' days and so on. The remnants are everywhere, they're reclaimable. It's probably not too late.
That's right. And the other thing is that the idea of equality of time, which is what this is about, the idea that time has its qualities, is something that already has a popular following, and millions who follow astrology in a vague or more professional way.
Or the horoscopes in the newspaper.
Exactly. There's a vast, it's not as if this is a new or esoteric idea. It's in fact much more popular than among uneducated
magic or any other pagan element suppressed by modern science. This is the most popular one, is political astrology.
The popular faith that time does in fact have variable qualities.
Well, the
and
tradition
times
of
of birth, etc., moments of important events, etc.
And judicial astrology. I mean, who was doing the horoscope of August 2nd and the invasion of Kuwait and so on?
Some of them, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
But probably the United Nations is not consulting it.
Probably not, but maybe Saddam Hussein.
Maybe he is.
But elective astrology, which is the kind that's commonly used in India, like picking the right date for a wedding or for starting a new business or something, I suppose it may be. I don't know whether Saddam Hussein is using that kind of astrology. Maybe not.
Well, if henge kits were about, and people then recovered the consciousness of the sky, then they'd be more interested in elective astrology because it would mean something in terms of their experience of watching the sky.
And present-day astrologers got detached from observation.
Detached from the sky.
My endless complaint to astrologers is that I've never found one who can actually point to me the positions of the planets. I ask, where's Jupiter tonight? Because astrologers don't know any more than anyone else. Hardly anyone knows.
No, because the official zodiac has got separated from the real zodiac by the precession of the equinox.
So this thing, these henge monuments they'd connect us with the sky, and in that sense, through making us conscious of the quality of time and the relationship of the Earth to the larger celestial organism, would obviously create by direct experience some awareness of the heavens. I think people are probably even more unconscious of the heavens than the Earth right now. I mean, most people literally don't know what the different constellations are, what phase of the moon it is. Modern city life leads to an almost unconscious bit of the heavenly realm. Whereas we're very conscious of the earth realm in terms of we know about the cores of the earth, we know about, everyone knows geology and tectonic plates and stuff. Our attention is earth directed, very much so. And so this heavenly connection is obviously an important step.
Yeah.
And then the only other question I can think of is the realm of psychedelics and the rediscovery of the realms of the unconscious. Presumably different drugs, different psychedelics and different other drugs tune one into different realms of the otherwise habituated or possible or areas of more morphic fields. Different spheres of human experience. There's the alcohol sphere, there's the LSD sphere, there's the heroin sphere. Incidentally, the heroin's legal too, if you think about it. It's legal for people who are dying.
Yes.
In our society, it's the officially recognized drug of death, and it's admissible to use it in hospices, heroin and morphine, to dying patients to ease them through the pains of death. So it is legal in our society, but it's the death drug.
So you have to retain a certain, not only age, but a state.
Yes.
Okay. Near death.
So it's interesting, it's another example of a legal drug that's legal under certain conditions, but not others. It occurred to me that heroin and opium, easing the pains of death aspect of those drugs, has a kind of traditional lineage. Opium is a kind of painkiller, that's long been known. And as a visionary substance, it's a long lineage. It's a dream drug, dream and death drug. Whereas cocaine, because in its original form taken by Indians when climbing hills and so on, was a work drug. And indeed that's what it still is for the yuppie cocaine takers that we read about in magazines.
That's right.
So they have qualities, drugs have qualities, and they open up different realms of experience. And so there'd be different drug days and different thresholds, initiation through life and that kind of thing.
There we go.
But still, we have to ask the question, how do these visions, which are the most intense that certainly I've experienced, how do these visions relate to the actual unconscious or consciousness of the natural world? Or how much are they mansions created by the human imagination that the astral plane, as it were, has a cumulative memory of all previous journeys.
Raise that up, zoom in a little more.
So, and certain recurrent kinds of dream, fantasy, adventure, dream, archetypal progress, so kind of morphic fields in that realm. So there's all these things that have ever happened in that realm, and including adventures, constructions, creations, experiences, surprises, interpretations that have occurred to previous psychedelic voyagers. So there's this cumulative geography.
A kind of Akashic record.
Yes. And the unconsciousness contains all this, and different drugs give different accesses to different parts of it. And so the question is, how much of it would be a kind of cumulative record of this creative edge of the human imagination, or how much of it is a communication through that openness from the spirit of the plant, or of the earth, or
the spirit of a star.
Or the spirit of the star. Well, whatever is invoked, you see, I suppose that given the laws of ceremonial magic and indeed of prayer in all traditions are that whatever power or presence or being you want to speak to, you first invoke. Our Father who art in heaven, Hail Mary, full of grace, Om Shivaya. You start by invoking the being or entity to whom you're addressing yourself by name. And so what would happen if, for example, one took a powerful psychoactive that opened one to the astral realm in the starry sense, and then invoked a particular star by name, and tried to journey or connect with or become open to influences from that star? This would be one way of doing it. I'd be rather frightened to try it myself.
These are the questions only the future will answer. That kind of thing, because
this kind of research
this kind of research has to lie in the future.
Well, I think we should maybe come back to your starting point about this bifurcation theory. You started with a bifurcation theory model of consciousness and the unconscious. And I think this bifurcation is happening the entire time. It's the habituation process, which is the kind of opposite of bifurcation. What you have in habituation is like we have an awareness of that machine. If it were going on all day, we wouldn't notice it. So there's a kind of movement from an awareness of duality, a separation of oneself from what's heard, a kind of consciousness of subject and object that reverse bifurcates unifies into an unawareness of the difference between subject and object, which is the habituated state. So it may be that consciousness, by its very nature, involves a kind of
So I think that we've missed my initial idea without replacing it, because I agree that the history of consciousness, I mean, I just sort of adopted for the sake of discussion this idea of the consciousness of the planet and so on. I agree that the history of consciousness is more properly called the history of unconsciousness, and it's the nature of the mind to be unconscious most of the time, because consciousness is a crowded little window. However, this other idea of experience being denied on basis of authority and dogma and ritual and so on, that which should be ours, our heritage of perception and experience, vanished from us by denial. The idea that chaos is bad, for example, that this is another kind of unconsciousness. This is the unavailable part of the unconscious, over which it's illegal, difficult, and perhaps even impossible to fly your plane and look out the window of consciousness and observe it. It becomes unavailable. This is the dark part of unconsciousness, and this kind of unconsciousness, I think, is created at a certain time in history, and there is a bifurcation for it. And previously, certainly in microbial life, we do not have an idea of prohibited experience, of a denial of valid experience and so on. All it can be smelled, eaten, excluded, and so on. Exhaled. All of this is okay. Denial, I think, is a recent phenomenon, and here there's serious danger for our evolution, because once the experience is denied, then evolution is shunted off its track.
What point in time do you think it was when this happened?
Well, this patriarchal business, I don't know if the whole complex has a particular element which is the dominant leading or causative one. But there's the patriarchy, the patrilineal, the nuclear family, the identification of order with good and disorder with bad, the idea that order is only homeostasis or periodic phenomenon, that which has been associated with by Hamlet's mill, with the precession of the equinox, that the order of the heaven was broken by the equinoctial sunrise moving from one constellation to another, destroying all possibility, apparently, of understanding the heavens. Something around there, that is 6,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, that there was a special new mode of thought. Prohibition of valid experience was begun, and I think that's a real fall from grace. And on the basis of that, we have real evil now, which is the problem of life. There is this growing evil. There is the destruction of integrity. There is the death of nature, and so on. These are real problems, and I think that they're new problems, and that they have a history, and it has to do with denial. It's not only the Christianity that made certain experiences illegal, the spiritual, for example, deciding that the spirit is illegal in 879 in the Synodic Council, and the political meeting of bishops, this kind of thing, where the prohibitions of Islam, of Christianity, of Judaism, and so on, of political gatherings, and the repression of psychedelic drugs, of religious, the destruction of the goddess, replacement of the goddess by gods, the destruction, the end of the magical invocation of the plentiful produce in the garden. I mean, there were so many things that became illegal. There's a dogmatic rejection of actual experience, and that creates a situation where we cannot fly our plane over this part of unconscious. We cannot reclaim a view of it. It's not legal to have a spiritual experience, to have an emotion. Men in this culture can't have an emotional experience. So finally, our consciousness is limited in a way which can't be restored simply by a willingness to devote one day to attention, variation, observation of the difference, or amplification of it. Just becomes unavailable. And I think that we have touched on some means that can be used to restore when it became legal, to try to heal ourselves from the effect of this denial. And the means are there, and we discuss them, but there is a political step which is necessary that we haven't touched upon, which would legislate into existence these henges and so on, which would make it legal to henge, and make it okay to henge. We don't know how to produce the station to regain what is lost. After something has become not okay, it's very hard to reclaim it. And the fact that chaos is contributed to that, it's very hard to undo this damage.
Except through observing chaos as day, which is the Saturnalias, where they had the reversal of the social order and so on. Areas like that in India. And all these Saturnalias, like May Day and May Eve in Europe.
The true goddess festivals.
Yes.
Serpents alive and well, dragons on the run, and clay in the fields of the Lord. Do these days still exist?
Well, they do, yes. I mean, Halloween is one example.
Dancing.
Halloween is one example.
Yes, Halloween is on the comeback.
And Halloween is in England, the All Hallows, the effect of All Hallows Eve, the reversal of the social order, is celebrated, and sometimes in many places, the night before Guy Fawkes, November 4th, called Mischief Night, which is when people can carry out mischief that normally otherwise would be extremely prohibited. In Cambridge, when I was an undergraduate, there were regular fights every November the 4th on Mischief Night between undergraduates and town boys, gather in the market square and pitch battles, which culminated in my second year in the burning down of the police shed in the centre of the marketplace, and in something that went too far and involved large-scale police intervention. The proctors of the university had to act to restore order. And for the following years,
All right, I like him. He's got a good character. Interesting personality there. I kind of like his gruff sort of expression, like kind of shock and annoyance.
Which of course
Okay, cool.
town attacks because
Or her.
Easy mark.
Anyway, this was all
So, put this off the tripod for an overview. I'm not going to do a lot today. I don't think I'm even going to do another session. I'm going to try and stay awake so I don't fall asleep and can get up early in the morning and sleep through the night. But
these exist in places like Brazil. They exist as
pretty
highly
heavy right now.
dissolvers of the social order. into
Thankfully the pain is eased up, otherwise I wouldn't be doing this.
Resurrection of magic is what
But anyway,
white magic.
that's it for the moment. So thank you for watching. That's Adam Sturch broadcasting from the Mushroom Mansion, Taos, New Mexico, working on oil painting a midsummer night's dream.
For the frequency to lighten the dark and so on of many places that
Have a good day,
fallen
Earth.
into this